Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 32nd lesson of the RTS tutorial series. In this lesson, we'll work on controlling our construction preview and setting up our overlap detection, which means we'll also set up our meshes. That said, fire up your editor and let's get started. And here we are yet again back inside of our editor. Now, before I go forward, I'd like to point out, just in case I don't do in the intro slides, that I actually left something out of this section that we are going to include, which is a building HUD, because we might send units into a building, or a building might be involved in being a combative building down the road. So there are going to be certain options we might want in a HUD, and you know what? I forgot to leave that in the section guide, so we're actually going to include that before we do the upgrade to 4.22. Alright, that said, let's get started with building rotation. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add in some keys to control for our building rotation. So if we go to settings and go to our project settings, and we haven't been here in a bit, I realize, we're going to add 2 new key bindings. Now, we're going to see something a bit weird in there when we go in. So let's just go ahead and go to our input real quick. And you're going to notice we have a whole bunch of new things in here. We have switch camera, we have reset VR, we have handbrake. That should be your hint where this is coming from. All of these came from our vehicle and our vehicle BP. So one of the cleanups we'll do after this section, but before we get into more advanced stuff and some of the other cleanup we'll do, we'll be removing the material we are not going to need from here, deleting it out, and getting rid of this stuff. The reason we aren't deleting this stuff yet is there are still things in the vehicle and the vehicle BP we're actually using, like the skeletal mesh. We haven't copied that over. So if we delete the things from here or these folders, now we'll get warning errors, we'll get errors and bug messages every time we log in. So we will save that for later. But for now, what we're going to do is we are going to create 2 new bindings. And the first binding will be rotate preview left. So rotate preview left. Notice again, I'm using Pascal casing. I keep calling it camel casing. Camel casing doesn't capitalize the first letter. Pascal casing does. And I'm going to give it 2 bindings. If it'll let me, there we go. And the first one I'm going to use is left caret. Now on the American and UK keyboard, left caret happens to be the comma button. Sorry, my mouse kind of lagged out there for a second. And the other one I'm going to do is left arrow. Now, not left shift, sorry. Oddly enough, we're going to be using shift because we've already used our left arrow. We have that in our move right. We have left there. So this will be left with a shift. All right, next we need a rotate preview right. So rotate preview right. And again, this will have 2 bindings. And I'm going to use the right caret or the right pointy bracket, which on American and UK keyboards is the period or full stop key or dot key, whatever term you prefer for that. And the second key, you probably guessed it, will be my right mouse button, sorry, not my right mouse button, my right keyboard button, which will be using the shift as well. And again, these shifts are to differentiate it from the move right feature here. Okay, so now that we had this really basic thing set up and kind of a review on how we did this earlier, let's go ahead and close this out. And if you remember, as I said before, we don't need to worry about saving. This automatically saves for us. So we close that out. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our tutorial folder and into our blueprints and then into our player blueprint and open up our player controller. In our player controller, we are going to just find a nice little open spot. I really don't like how I had this laid out right now because it's not as organized as the earlier sections were. And that's because there's not done with these, so I haven't commented them out. But let's go up here for now just because I can make a reference to something here later on. And we're going to do rotate preview left. And let's grab the right one as well, just because we'll need it. So rotate preview right, rotate preview left, sorry, left and then right. We're only going to do one of these. We'll just copy over the code as is for the other one. So the first thing we're going to need is we need to know if we press that button, are we actually in building mode? And do we have a valid preview? Quite literally, what we're doing is we're using this same logic. In fact, we could just copy it over, but let's not. Let's get practice doing that. So let's just grab off of here and do branch. All right, there's our branch. So we know, are we in building mode? So let's grab our bool is in building mode. Oops, sorry. Is in building mode. And we also need to know, it's a reference, isn't it? Yes, it is. We need to know, do we have a valid construction preview? So we're going to get that as well. And we want to know, is this not equal to something? In other words, does it have a value? Is it not a null pointer? Grab an and. There we go. And plug in both returns into there. So are we in building mode? True, false. Are we not equal to something? Are we not a null pointer? Are we valid? In other words, do we have something in there? If both are true, then we want this button to do something. If one or neither are true, then we don't want this button to do anything. We don't want to waste time computing it out. Now, we're actually going to move this one just a little bit further down. We'll add a reroute in. Makes it a little bit easier to work with what we're going to do. Just going to kind of move that there. So if it is valid, we want to rotate the preview. So let's drag off of here, and we'll do set actor rotation. All right, I'm going to add another reroute in just because I'm going to drag this up here now and plug the true into that execute pin. So if it is true, we want to rotate this actor. And the actor we're rotating is our preview building. The only thing is we haven't specified how much we want this to rotate. So the way we're going to do that, and we're going to move this to get that room we need, is we need to drag off of here and get our current rotation. So get actor, sorry, I was typing get actor, get actor rotation. And what we're going to do from here is split this structure, or split this struct pin, so we have all three values. Now, we're thinking about it from a top-down point of view. While we're rotating it in the X and Y plane, we're actually rotating it from that around the X-axis to do so. So, we don't need to really worry about these two. So we're just going to drag off of here and do make rotator. All right, now that we've done that, we can plug the Y in. And what separates the X and the Y, sorry, what separates the rotate left and the rotate right is what we do with this Z value. So we can either add or subtract from it. If we're rotating to the left, we're going to be adding. Just go ahead and plug that into the Z into the Z through that plus, and we're going to create a new variable. And this variable will be our construction preview rotation rate. Wow, that's actually a bit long. Let's just call it, you know what, I'm just going to run that construction rotation rate. And it is a float. And that will go into my construction variables. And this will be the rate at which, or the degrees, actually I'll do rate bracket degree. Wow, I typed the word bracket in, rate bracket degrees at which the preview will rotate. This number needs to be able to go into 360. So any number that can go 360 can go in here. We're going to compile just so we can get the default, and we'll start with a very simple 90 degrees. this will give us 4 rotation options. At 90 degrees, this is our simple, north, east, south, west rotation. And we're going to take this return value from our make rotator, and we're simply going to plug it into new rotation. So we can go ahead and copy all of this. Actually, let me just drag this out so it's easier to copy it. We can just copy all of this. And I'm going to move the pin back there. And actually, I'm going to move all of this just a little bit further up so I have a bit of room for this one here. And sorry, just making it pretty. We're going to paste that into there. There we go. Plug that in. And just line it up a tiny bit better than I had it. Because I'm being anal retentive for some reason. There we go. So let's just test this out. See what happens when we, go in here. Let's go over here for a second, get our factory, and I'm going to hit the left caret. There we go. We are rotating. We have those 4 options. So this is a very simple grid setup. Now I'm rotating the other direction. Actually, hang on one second. We messed something up. It's not rotating the other direction. We've got to change this out because I was in a rush there. So switch that out to float minus float. Plug that in. There we go. And let's test the carets. Make sure the caret keys both work now. So left, right, and now the arrow keys. Shift left, shift right. Well, that doesn't happen in my preview file. Interesting. Well, what we will do then is when we are doing this, we will disable we can disable camera movement on pressed and then on release re-enable it, or we could just remove those 2 key bindings. Let's just try the disable camera movement first real quick. See what happens. I'm just going to try it on one of them, and this is the right preview. So make sure I do it with the right arrow key, otherwise we won't see any difference. And I'm not going to make it pretty for now. I'm just going to leave it kind of crossed like that, just to make sure it works. So we'll bring our factory in. Okay, here we go. And yep, that still works. I'm able to move afterwards. So let's just clean this up so it's a bit prettier. We know we're going to need a little bit more room now. And let's just drag that up there just a tiny bit. Disable camera movement. That's now true on that one. And on released, it will become false. Well, we've just got to move that pin there for a second. We're going to select all of this. Oh, we're actually not going to select all that. We're just going to select the top line. What am I doing? Drag it up there and just set that guy there. There we go. Okay, that sets up our building rotation. Now, when I started this tutorial series, someone commented they didn't want this, simple only 4 direction option. So we're going to add more directions in, or talk about how to do so at least. But also, before I do that, all right, so the starting position for this building is there, right? With the 2 towers in the back. We have it now on that side. Well, let's say I don't want this building. I want this one instead. Wait. I did want the factory. Now, if you notice, there's a slight problem there. Let me close out the factory again. Bring it back on. Close out again. Bring it back on. The rotation is incorrect. So we have a couple of things to fix there. It's that rotation to fix. And we want to add more options in for the amount of rotation options we have. Well, to add in more rotation options, we change this value. Again, it just has to be a value that can go into 360 degrees. So with 2 options, that'd be 180. That's our simple left, right. At 90, that's 4 options. That's, top, right, bottom, left. At 45, that is 8 options. That's, you know, north, northwest, west, southwest, south, etc. And then we have things like, ooh, that number doesn't seem, oh, sorry, I misphrased something. Then we have 30, which gives us 12 options, which is actually the number I prefer for this sort of stuff. Or 18, which gives us 20 options, or 15, which gives us 24 options. So I said, I'm a fan of our dear 30 degrees. I just want to make sure that's right. Yeah, that is. And to show you how I've calculated that, oh, I've already closed out Excel. I use Excel to actually make sure that all those numbers are right. So if we drag this in, and we keep hitting that button, eventually we should get back to that 0 position. Actually, I'm going to go for the top. Really somehow think that number is wrong. Like, I think I've actually put the wrong number down on my spreadsheet. So, let's just make sure that actually goes back to the, oh no, that's correct. Okay. So there we go. We fixed that. Now to fix the issue with the building not going back to the correct position, let's expand out our RTS folder here, expand out our blueprints folder, and go to buildings. And let's open up our building preview BP. And in this file, what we're going to do, sorry, let me get it open, is, well, first we're going to close out what we don't need, which is our grid snaps and current cursor position. We're going to go up to our destroy preview event, and we're just taking out all the things for our preview. Well, you know, we're resetting in here our, you know, class, our display mesh, turning off his preview, resetting the static mesh itself. The one thing we don't reset now is our rotation. So let's go ahead and drag off of here and do set actor rotation. There we go. And we're going to set actor rotation. We don't need to target anything. If you want to be anal retentive, you can drag off of here and put a reference to self in just to make sure it is moving the correct rotation back. And that what fixes that issue for us. So if we go back in here, we're going to rotate this. There we go. And then we are going to, oh, by the way, for people thinking this is rotating left when I'm hitting that, that's right, that's left. Because if you think about it this way, the, I cannot do this well, but the bottom of the, so the part that's facing the sphere now for the camera, that's the front of it. So its front is rotating to the right, now to the left. And I know that's a bit hard with these horrible meshes I made, so I just wanted to point that out real quick. All right, now that we've taken care of rotation, resetting rotation, the next bit I said we would do is we would set our meshes. So, excuse me. So, let's go to our textures. Sorry, not our textures, our meshes, even though I just said that. We have our build. Why am I going to meshes? I don't mean meshes. I mean our materials. And in our folder, what we'll do is, I'm not sure why. Oh, it is in there. So we're going to create a new folder. And this will be our construction. And in here, what we're going to do is we will create a new material, which will be RTS. Actually, let's just do this as preview because we're already in our construction folder. I was going to name it RTS construction _M for material. Let's just pin this in here. And just going to select this material. And we are going to change it to translucent. And on the main grid, I'm just going to hold down the number 3 and, oops, sorry, and left click, not right click. So hold down 3 and left click. And I'm going to just right click it now and convert to parameter. And this will be color. Except for some reason that just happened. I'm not sure what happened there. So I'm going to reselect it and type in color. Going to spell it the American way, even though I live in England. And in my default values, I am just going to set this to 0.8, 0.8, 0.8 and leave this last value at 1. Now the reason I've converted this to a parameter is so that when I want to make an edit of the child of it, otherwise known as an instance in this case, sorry, I'll undo what I just did, I can edit this value and edit any part of this sort of default vector parameter here for my color. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off of this top pin here, which is our base sort of color, and I'm going to plug it into base color. And then we have our 3 channels here for RGB. Well, these add up to that top one, so I don't need to worry too much about those 3 individual ones. But next, I need to worry about this last pin, which is our alpha, the opacity of it. So if well, we can't see any change if I change that now. So I'm just going to drag this into my, this did not change. I said change this to translucent. There we go. I thought I said change this to translucent. If I didn't, and I'm pretty sure I did, select this main box and change this to translucent. Drag this off and plug this into opacity. Now, what these settings are, this translucent sort of thing here, is just our simple sort of what pins in here should be active. And in doing that, changing this to translucity, we get this opacity value, which affects our alpha. If you take our alpha and just drag it down, give it a second to re-render here, we can now, there's still that circle there, but it's more see-through. Drag it back up. Again, we still have that sort of white hint, but it's more see-through. So we're going to just leave this at a default of 1 for now. We are going to hit apply, and it's going to take a few minutes to compile, or a few moments, not minutes, to compile the shaders. Hit save. And just because materials drive me crazy leaving them open, I am just going to instantly close this. I do not want to think about it. I'm just going to close it. And I'm going to create an instance. And an instance is very much like a child. It inherits the properties of its parent. So I'm going to create one that will be just preview minst. And then I'm going to right click it again and I'll create another one, which will be preview bad inst. And if I leave this as is, it's going to give me that warning. So I'm just going to put bad in there now. And I'm going to open up both of these. I'm going to do them one at a time though, real quick. And there we are. We're looking at our material, that sort of off-white color. Now we need to make this ghostly. So I'm going to expand out this vector parameter for color. I'm going to click this checkbox to change it. And I'm going to give it an opacity of 0.6. So it's somewhat see-through and we get that sort of ghostly, sort of whitish color. I'm going to hit save. I'm also going to pin this up here in case I need to open it again in the future. Close it out. And now I'm going to open up this bad preview. And the bad preview we're going to set to red. So we know that we have something that isn't valid. And the bad preview will come up when we overlap with another object. And I'm just going to set the red value, R for red, to 0.1, the green value to 0, and the blue value to 0. I also want it to be somewhat translucent, but I'm not going to use the same values before. I'm just going to use 0.75 because I just find that is a better looking color. Actually, what color did I use? Hey, I'm glad I pinned it up here. I might want to use I'm not sure what 0.6 looks like. That is a very weird shade of red to me. I don't like how it looks when you're looking down at the terrain. It's better when you are looking up towards a light source or have that sort of HDR background there. 0.8 is a bit dark, hard to see through, in my opinion. Hard to see what you might be overlapping with. So I found that 0.7 and 0.75 are the best two sort of options. So we'll go with 0.75. Again, save it. And let's close both of these out. Alright, now that we have our material set up, we can do our overlap check, which is actually fairly simple. So, if we go into our preview, we have this tick, and we want to know if we're overlapping something, and we're following the mouse. And we're following the mouse, which sets our actor location. So, it makes sense then, when we are doing that, to check, are we now over something that's valid or not? Or, sorry, are we overlapping something or not? So, I'm going to drag off this last one, and I'm going to type in branch. And I'm just going to leave this branch there for a second. I am going to drag my preview mesh in. Sorry, I'm not sure. Where did I put my preview mesh? Oh, sorry, it's up here. Not sure why I couldn't remember where it was at. Wow. And we're just going to drag off of here. We're going to do set material. There we go. And I'm going to put a reroute in, just so it's a little bit nicer and neater in a second. Jesus. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to put another reroute in here, just so I can raise that up there a tiny bit. Again, so it's a little bit nicer and neater. We'll just duplicate that down here. And we'll plug that into there. Actually, yeah, we'll plug that into there. I don't know, I'll try to plug it into the material. And then put another reroute into here. Again, just so it's nicer and neater looking. And we'll do this top one as our, we are overlapping something. So this will be our preview bad. And we'll do this bottom one as we are not overlapping something. So preview. This will be preview instance. So preview bad instance and preview instance. So we need a way to know, are we overlapping something? So we're going to create a new function. This function is actually a fairly simple function. So this will be check overlap. And we'll have one return node, which will be is overlapping. And it will be a Boolean, because you saw the return was a bool, or sorry, we're using a branch, so we need a bool. And this is really a simple one to do. Right click, search, get overlapping actors. Because remember, we can have events when we overlap, so it's good to have, this function's already built in. You know, you might have a game where you have a trigger point where a person, you know, overlaps with another actor and it triggers an event, like a pick up ammo. When you walk over the ammo, you're overlapping it and it vanishes from the game and you get ammo added to your inventory. That's what this sort of thing can be used for. Well, we want to know, are we overlapping with anything? And the way it does that, it creates an array of things we're overlapping with. So we just want to get from here the last index. And if the last index is equal to or greater than 0, just like we did with our units, then there is something there. So if it is, this will set that to true. If it isn't, it will set this to false. So compile. And highlight your check overlap. Set to pure, because this is a pure function. And go back to your event graph. And then drag this into here. And now we have check overlap is overlapping. Plug that into there. And let's just tighten this up a tiny bit. We can make it a tiny bit tighter. There we go. All right. Now let's go back into our preview. Spawn our factory in, and you can see that it's this nice sort of translucent ghostly color. Let's put it over that tree there. Uh-oh, we're running into an issue. Well, what's happening is, let's take a closer look at what's happening there. As I move the mouse, the building is getting off the ground. Now over here, with these rocks, we are getting that red color, so it is checking overlap. We have one more thing we need to address. So let's just quickly save everything. Control S save. We need to address, does it know where it's at on the map? And to do so, what we need to do is we need to first, we're going to close this stuff out for now. We're going to come back to it in a minute, but we're going to just leave it out for now. We're going to go to our project settings. And we are going to add in a new collision object. Actually, I just want to make sure. Sorry about that. I don't mean object. We're going to add in a new collision channel. I don't know why I said that, and I had to just have a moment where I wasn't sure. The default for this object will be ignore, and this will be landscape, just so we know what it is. And now, this will make life a tiny bit easier, because what we're going to do is we're going to check, are we on the landscape? And if we aren't, then we're not going to do anything. So what we'll do is we will go into, we're actually going to go into our blueprints. We're going to go into our library, and we're going to go into our RTS function library. You might have remembered me pausing in this one in a few videos back and going, ooh, or I think it was either the last video or the video before. So in the last 2 videos, going, ooh, we'll have this later. We now have a new trace channel, and it's landscape we care about. Actually, this won't affect getting vehicles and people into vehicles, because this is we only use this when we're spawning in our vehicles, spawning in our units, or following our mouse for our construction. So this will only follow our mouse if our mouse is on the landscape. So if we now hit compile and play, and we spawn in our building, oh sorry, I'm hitting the wrong button. Oh, okay. That was a different response that I'm used to. We'll try that one more time. Huh? Okay, why is it doing that? That is definitely a new response. Let me just double check that I haven't messed something else up. Alright, so sorry about the jump there. We don't need to actually do anything in any of these blueprints I have open. I am a bit embarrassed to admit how long it took me to resolve this issue. I'm just going to point out that I was kind of stupid here for a moment. We set the landscape. We haven't told the system what the landscape is, and we have to do that still. So very quickly, what we're going to do is in our search feature here, just type in landscape. Don't spell it wrong like I just did. And what you're going to see is slightly different than what I currently have. You're going to see, I think, I'm going to undo all of this. You're going to see that. You're going to have it as block all. Sorry, by the way, if you can't see what that is yet, if you go into your landscape, go to collision, go to collision presets and expand it out. You'll have it as block all. And you just go to custom and take landscape and move it over to block. So it is actually still blocking it. You can see here in my line trace channel, we still have landscape. If we hit play, spawn that in. There we go. I'm not sure why it's not registering that tree as overlap. Interesting. So let's just make sure that this tree here, let's highlight our tree and our leaves. Let's actually check their collisions as well. Sorry, their collisions as well. I'll say that in a little bit more of a normal tone. Well, because these don't have collision meshes, I don't think. That's why. So there are, we hit generate overlap events. That should actually resolve that, for at least for part of that. There we go. Because they don't have collision meshes, these were causing that issue. And the rock will have one either. So if we click generate overlap events, there we go. We spawn those in. Oh, yep, we have that issue there. And we can rotate our building. So in the next video, we'll worry about actually placing our building, getting it ready for construction. And we'll even put in a sort of dummy constructor, just so you can see what it will look like. That said, if you enjoyed this video, likes are much appreciated. It lets me know I'm bringing you content you appreciate, and it helps get this series out there. In addition, if there's anything you want to see added to this section or to any other sections of the series, go ahead and tell me down in the comments below. Also, let me know what's working for you or what is not working for you in this series. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.